repentance. And my text is out of 1 Samuel chapters 1 and 2. I'm going to be reading select verses out of each of those. So I'm going to be speaking about Hannah, a woman of God who was tested, and her testimony after her obedience to her covenant with God. So I'm going to start reading in 1 Samuel 9 and read 9 and 10, and then I have some thoughts, and then we will continue in verse 11. So Hannah rose up after they had eaten in Shiloh, and after they had drunk. Now Eli the priest sat upon a seat by a post of the temple of the Lord. And she was in bitterness of her soul, and prayed unto the Lord, and wept. So Hannah's barrenness was the source of her sorrow, and great distress for her. In the culture of ancient Israel, having children was considered a blessing and a sign of God's favor. Barrenness, on the other hand, was often seen as shameful. And in Hannah's case, her deep desire for a child and her inability to conceive led her to experience profound emotional pain and anguish. So continue reading in verse 11. And she vowed a vow and said, O Lord of hosts, if thou wilt indeed look on the affliction of thine handmaiden, and remember me, and not forget thine handmaiden, but wilt give unto thine handmaiden a man-child, then I will give him unto the Lord all the days of his life, and there shall no razor come upon his head. And it came to pass, as she continued praying before the Lord, that Eli marked her mouth. Now Hannah, she spake in her heart, only her lips moved. But her voice was not heard, therefore Eli thought she had been drunken. And Eli said unto her, How long wilt thou be drunken? Put away thy wine from thee. And Hannah answered and said, No, my Lord, I am a woman of a sorrowful spirit. I have drunk neither wine nor strong drink, but have poured out my soul before the Lord. Count not thine handmaiden for a daughter of Belial, for out of the abundance of mine complaint and grief have I spoken hitherto. Then Eli answered and said, Go in peace, and the God of Israel grant thee thy petition that thou hast asked of him. And she said, Let thine handmaiden find grace in thy sight. So the woman went her way and did eat, and her countenance was no more sad. I'm going to stop reading here. Hannah returns home, and you all know she has her firstborn son, who she names Samuel. And she does not return to the temple again until he's weaned. And when she does return to the temple, it is to leave her child. She has made a covenant with God. She is committed to leaving him, for him to serve God for the rest of his days. Now this must have been incredibly hard for Hannah. As a mother, she has grown very attached to her first child, and knowing she's going to be separated from him must have been so painful for her. But instead of pitying herself or trying to find a way around or out of the covenant she made with God, she says in 1 Samuel 2, And Hannah prayed and said, My heart rejoiceth in the Lord, mine horn is exalted in the Lord. My mouth is enlarged over mine enemies, because I rejoice in thy salvation. There is none holy as the Lord, for there is none beside thee, neither is there any rock like our God. Talk no more so exceedingly proudly, let not arrogancy come out of your mouth. For the Lord is a God of knowledge, and by him actions are weighed. The bows of the mighty men are broken, they that stumbled are girded with strength. They that are full have hired out themselves for bread, and they that are hungry ceased. So that the barren hath borne 7, and she that hath many children is waxed feeble. The Lord killeth and maketh alive. He bringeth down to the grave and bringeth up. The Lord maketh poor and maketh rich. He bringeth low and lifteth up. He raiseth up the poor out of the dust, and lifteth up the beggar from the dunghill, to set them among princes, and to make them inherit the throne of glory. For the pillars of the earth are the Lord's, and he hath set the world upon them. He will keep the feet of his saints, and the wicked shall be silent in darkness. For by strength shall no man prevail. The adversaries of the Lord shall be broken to pieces. Out of heaven shall he thunder upon them. The Lord shall judge the ends of the earth, and he shall give strength unto his king, and exalt the horn of his anointed. The lesson we can take from Hannah's story is when we obey God, our obedience will cause us to adore and to praise him.